Good morning, students. Let us revise what we have done in the past. To begin with, let us go through the properties of metals and non-metals. First, the physical state. Metals generally they are solids due to their high melting points, whereas non-metals it exists in all the three states of matter, that is solid, liquid and gas. Now there are few metals. They exist in liquid state at room temperature. The metals are mercury and gallium. The symbol of mercury is Hg, gallium is Ga. These two are liquids at room temperature. Now those non-metals, for instance gases, hydrogen, chlorine, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. Liquid. Now there is one non-metal that exists in liquid state at room temperature, and that is bromine. You have to remember it. Solid. Non-metals like iodine, sulfur, carbon, these are solids. Now let us move on to the next point, and that is malleability. The term malleability means is the property of metals that can be beaten into thin sheets or rolled into thin sheets. So those metals that are highly malleable are, for instance, gold and silver. They are amongst the best malleable metals. This is the reason why people they make gold or silver ornaments, because they are highly malleable. Not only malleable, they are highly lustrous also, shine. But there is a metal that is non-malleable, and that is zinc. It is brittle in nature. Now let us take a look at non-metals. Metals are generally brittle. They break into pieces when hammered. That means non-metals, you cannot beat them into thin sheets. They break up into small fragments. So we call it is brittle. Now next is ductility. Ductility means it is the property of metals or elements. It can be drawn into thin wires. Okay, it can be drawn into thin wires. So, silver, gold, copper, and iron are highly ductile. Okay, you can make or you can draw thin wires from these metals. Then, non-ductile. Non-metals are non-ductile because they break on stretching. So we call it non-metals are non-ductile. Next point of difference is now thermal conductivity. Metals are good conductors of heat. Silver is the best conductor of heat, whereas lead is the poorest conductor of heat. Remember, silver is the best and lead is the poorest conductor of heat. Now let us take a look at non-metals. Non-metals are bad conductors of heat. They are very poor conductors of heat. So you have to keep in mind the names of those that are exception that we have studied. Now let us move on to the next. Next is electrical conductivity. Means are they good conductors of electricity or poor conductors of electricity? Metals are generally good conductors of electricity. Silver is the best conductor, followed by copper, gold, aluminium and tungsten. So most of the wires, for electrical transmission were earlier made of copper because they are very good conductors of electricity. But nowadays you'll see mostly they are made of aluminium because it is light and good conductor of electricity and also cheap. Now let us take a look at nonmetals. Nonmetals are bad conductors of electricity except graphite and gas carbon. These two are the exceptions which are good conductors of electricity. Now, there are few exceptions in metals also, and they are poor conductors of electricity. For instance, bismuth, mercury, iron are poor conductors of electricity. Now let us move on to next, and that is luster, meaning possesses shine. Metals possess shine, luster, whereas non-metals do not possess shine, so we say lack luster. Except iodine is a subliming non-metal. Okay, it possesses metallic luster, meaning shine, as well as graphite also has metallic luster. Now, the next point is hardness. Now, metals are generally hard, but there are a few metals which are soft. For instance, sodium, potassium, and calcium. But I can say that sodium and potassium, these two are very soft. You can cut it with a knife as though you're cutting a cake. Okay, they are so soft. Whereas non-metals are generally soft, right? They are generally soft. Exception diamond. Diamond, you have studied that it is one of the hardest element known. Now, let us move on to the next point, and that is density. I'm sure in physics you have studied what is density. Density equals to mass per unit volume. Okay, now metals have high densities. Iridium and osmium have the greatest densities. That means they are very denser or densest metal. Whereas non-metals have low density. They have very low density. But there are a few metals which is very light. I mean, they are very, what do you call, having low density. For instance, lithium, okay? It belongs to the alkali metals. It is lightest metal, okay? It is the lightest metal. Now let us move on to tensile strength, meaning ability of a metal or a non-metal to withstand pull, stress, etc. So metals have high tensile strength. That means they are stronger, whereas non-metals have low tensile strength. Okay, so metals generally have very high tensile strength, whereas non-metals have low tensile strength. Next is sonority. Sonority means able to produce sound. Okay, it has the capacity or ability to produce sound when struck. You might have seen the guitar, okay? You might have played also guitar, okay? The strings, they are is made of a metal, okay? So when it is struck, it produces sound. Metals are sonorous, whereas non-metals are non-sonorous. Are you with me? Now, the last point is melting and boiling point. Metals have high melting point and boiling point, point to be noted. And tungsten, whose chemical symbol is W, has the highest melting point. It melts around 3410 degree Celsius, very high melting point, and this is one of the reasons why tungsten is used to manufacture filaments, that is used in the bulbs. Then metals like sodium, potassium have low melting points, whereas mercury has also low melting point. Sorry, boiling point. Now let us take a look at non-metals. Non-metals generally have low melting point and boiling points, but there are few exceptions. For instance, carbon, silicon, and boron. These three have high melting point and high boiling points. So please learn the differences between the metals and non-metals with respect to all that I have discussed with you today. Thank you.